Try that again. Good morning. Welcome to opening day. It is so great to see all of you this morning. And as Shannon Hill said, it's hard to believe that it's opening day already once again. But we have some beautiful sunshine here, and it is just fantastic to be able to gather together. Oh, we've got technology issues already. There we go. So welcome. We are glad that some of you are joining us from North County. We wish that we could see you, but we know you are there, and we appreciate your participation live as well this morning. Joining us online is our trustee from District Area 1, Ms. Dana Stroud. Welcome, Trustee Stroud. Here with us from District 3 is Mr. Patrick Mullen, who was recently reelected. From District 2, Dr. Deborah Stakes, who is our board vice president. And from District 5, our board president, Mrs. Mary Strobridge. Thank you so much for being here today. I thought this was lots of fun. This was on the Chancellor's Office listserv that went to several thousand people yesterday. Our marketing team works really hard to try to get Cuesta photos to show up on the system level materials, and it was really exciting when I saw this email and I went, wow, there we are. So maybe not featuring anyone from the college, but certainly our beautiful campus facilities. So we have a very full agenda this morning, and we are going to move through things quickly. And just in terms of housekeeping, the restrooms here are located in the lobby. We are not going to have a break. We're going to go straight through to 11 o'clock. In case of emergency, and it seems very appropriate that we be planning for such today, there are emergency exits located halfway through the audience. Those doorways lead into hallways that will take you through and out of the building if needed. Without delay, we are going to jump right into our agenda and start with our new employee introductions today.
Hello everybody, I'm Dave Becker and I am your new commercial music lab tech.
My name is Nathaniel Carrasco and I am in the user support position.
Hi, my name is Jean Depew. I am the Student Life and Leadership Activities Assistant.
Cassidy Doling, Financial Aid Department Assistant.
Hi, I'm Marianne Dwarzan and I'm Accounting Tech 2 in Fiscal Services.
Anel Gutierrez Orozco, Bilingual Enrollment Success Specialist.
I am David Ingram, and I am night shift custodian.
I am Katie Coonley. I am an assistant preschool teacher at North County campus.
Lars Luther, lab technician.
Alex Montoya, Bilingual Enrollment Success Specialist.
Hi everyone, I'm Leanne Reimer. I am working in the Student Health Services Department as the Student Health Services Assistant, the front desk.
My name is Brenda Rodriguez, and I am the Student Life and Leadership Activities Assistant here for North County campus.
I'm Tony Salgado, and I am the college receptionist.
Hi, I'm Damarie Santander, and I am the toddler and preschool assistant teacher.
I'm Natalie Torres. I'm one of the guided pathway coordinator.
Hello, my name is Joe Beard, and I am an adjunct professor for Introduction to Geographic Information Systems.
Hi, I'm Betsy Betancourt, and I am helping in the nursing program as an LVN clinical instructor.
David Campbell, Spanish.
Mike Dana, Adjunct Music Department.
My name is Connor Fisher, and I'm the head cross-country coach.
Angela Gomez, ESL instructor.
My name is Rachel Grutzmacher, and I'm the head coach for the women's water polo team.
Dawn Hamilton, ESL instructor.
Rob Kinnear, Aviation Maintenance Technician Instructor.
Rob Kravitz, Chemistry Faculty Part-Time.
Matthew McElhaney, Paramedic Program Director.
I'm Leslie McIver, and I am a Spanish adjunct instructor.
Hi, my name is Marianne Momeni, and I'm the reference librarian.
Minnie Nagendran, part-time instructor, Anatomy Lab.
Hello, my name is Robert Neely, and I am the head track and field coach.
Linda Purcello, nursing faculty.
Spencer Plant, part-time instructor with the LVN nursing program.
Hi, I'm Summer Sheffield, and I'll be teaching in the art department as an adjunct professor, teaching Drawing 2 and Color Theory.
Mary Trejo, adjunct faculty for basic skills classes for the GED program.
Jamie Betancourt, Interim Director, DSPS.
Hello there, my name is Aaron Borgeson, and I'm the Director of Outreach and Enrollment Services.
Megan Faye Mitchell, Administrative Assistant to the Assistant Superintendent, Vice President of Student Success and Support Programs.
Hello, my name is Erin Nagley, and I am the Dean of Instruction for STEM.
Hello, my name is Moza Person, and I'm the new Dean for Social and Behavioral Sciences, Business Education, Agriculture, and Ethnic Studies.
Rich Randolph, Cuesta College Police Department, Chief of Police.
Hi, my name is Aubrey Kwan Roderick. I am the Dean of Instruction for Arts, Humanities, and Communications.
Megan Schuler-Jones, Director of Student Engagement.
So welcome to all of our new employees, and thank you for playing along. It helps all of us get to know you when we get to see your face and hear you say your name, and we welcome all of you to Cuesta. Now, Dr. Jason Curtis is going to recognize our Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Class 2 graduates.
Or at least I'll try. So congratulations, this summer we had the second class of the Jedi Academy, and so I'd like to recognize those who completed the Academy, starting with Rachel Barnett, Greg Baxley, Dave Becker, Megan Boaz Alvarez, Marilyn Cleaves, Bill Demarest, Sally Demarest, Alex Espinosa Kulik, Mario Espinosa Kulik, Roland Finger, Frank Haw, Galadriel Highhouse, Beth Johnson, Emily Kane, Mike Kinter, Susan Klein, John Knutson, Karina Love, Jennifer Martin, Ron McCarley, Jessica Michelson, Emily Purificacao, Becky Reed, Robert Sfarzo, Jennifer Shellhorn, Regina Vogue, and Paul Yun. So congratulations to Jedi Class 2.
Congratulations and thank you for your commitment to the students of Cuesta College. It is now my privilege to recognize service excellence with the Elaine Holly Coates Award. The Elaine Holly Coates Service Excellent Award was established as an endowment fund by the Foundation Board of Directors and named in honor of Elaine Holly Coates, who was the first classified employee of Cuesta College. She represents the epitome of service excellence. This year's award winner received the following nomination comments. They are attentive, knowledgeable, pleasant, responsible, efficient, helpful, and courteous. That could be anyone. They do their job with a positive attitude, smile, and a warm greeting. When I was new, they welcomed me into the department and gave me an excellent orientation. They're extraordinarily helpful, going over and above to make everything easy and clear. I never have to ask for anything twice, and always responds with a can-do attitude and a positive frame of mind. They make time to talk with department members and students. They're always willing to take on a task and knows all the answers. They are a highly valued member of our team. They once worked as a student assistant and worked with Elaine Holly Coates. They are an alum who bleeds Cuesta green and at one time was a Cuesta College cheerleader. It's fantastic, isn't it? This year's winner of the Elaine Holly Coates Service Excellent Award is Kathy Babb. And the plaque reads, it's presented to Kathy Babb for distinguished performance and excellence in service. Congratulations, Kathy.
Stop crying first. Oh, whoops. I'm shrinking. I'm only 4'10" now. Thank you so much. I've been here 37 years in the same department. It says a lot. You know, I love my people. I have 7 children, and all 7 of them came here. 5 of them graduated, so Cuesta's in my blood. It's in my blood forever. Thank you so much.
And now I would like to invite Dr. Matthew Davis forward, who's going to present the Adjunct Excellence in Teaching or Service Award.
Hi, I'm Matthew Davis, Coordinator for Faculty Professional Development and Equity Education. Last year, the Faculty Professional Development Committee, working with CCFT, established the Adjunct Excellence in Teaching or Service Award to recognize the outstanding contributions of our adjunct faculty in supporting student success, and, in particular, to recognize those individuals who demonstrate an exceptional commitment to ongoing professional development. In our second year of reviewing committee nominations for this award, the committee was pleased to see just how many of our adjunct faculty are deserving of this award. We wish we could give out more than one award. Making our final determination was difficult as we ended up with 5 different nominees to consider. However, this year's recipient made things slightly easier by receiving 3 separate nominations. This individual was recognized as, quote, an outstanding, dedicated, and compassionate teacher who creates engaging lessons and assignments that help draw on students' own experiences and knowledge, end quote. Another nominator highlighted, quote, the care and attention this individual gives to students and her bubbly and comforting personality that makes students feel comfortable in the classroom. Her commitments to her division and to ongoing professional development are equally impressive. She is a frequent and active participant in professional development activities across campus, having co-presented a Flex workshop on design tools and participated in this past summer's Jedi Academy on curriculum and teaching. During the academy, she impressed this co-facilitator with her engagement and the materials and her willingness to help others, oftentimes as one of the last participants to log out of our Zoom sessions and volunteering her time to help other participants outside of our designated meetings. For her division, she has organized a series of mixers for students and faculty, has spearheaded the installation of science-related inclusive artwork in the 2300 faculty office building, has started a little free pantry, and has advocated for the discussion of equity-related issues to the physical sciences in division meetings. She is a strong proponent of LGBTQIA rights and currently serves as co-chair of the CCFT Council of Representatives. It is with great pleasure that I present the Adjunct Excellence in Teaching or Service Award to Jennifer Shellhorn, instructor in physical sciences and ocean science. Congratulations, Jennifer. Cuesta is lucky to have you.
First of all, I had no idea my wife followed me here, I thought she was going up to Camp Roberts, so that was a fun surprise. I'm so appreciative of this, and I never really expect any kind of recognition. It's for the students and for the community, and so just to be recognized for doing what I think is best is more than I could ever expect and anticipate. And this doesn't mean I'm going to stop going to things, and I'll still probably be the last person to log off. But well, I'm shaking. I'm so grateful, and I look forward to continuing to support our students and our community with you all. So thank you.
Congratulations, Jennifer. And now I'd like to invite Dr. Wes Sims, the president of the Academic Senate Council, to present the Peter and MMA Diffley Award for Faculty Excellence.
Hello. First and foremost, the Diffley Award recognizes an excellent teacher out of a college full of excellent teachers. But the award winner must also match one of 4 additional criterion. Today's award winner far excels in not just one of the criterion, but in 3 of them. They are 1, community and campus activism; 2, environmental and ecological concerns; 3, special motivation to science students. You might say that this year's award winner not only meets the award standards, but they are a mile above the standard. But in fact, this isn't quite right either. We should think of this year's winner as not a mile above, but 2 miles deep. Her depth of experience, knowledge, and expertise comes from having been there. How did she get there? One of the ways that she got there was in an HOV. In this case, an HOV is not a high occupancy vehicle, but a human-occupied vehicle. As part of her academic research, she traveled in an Alvin submersible, which is like an oceanographer's version of an agile submarine. And she traveled in this Alvin HOV 2 miles deep into the ocean to examine the sea floor. However, her pedagogy doesn't rely on bringing her knowledge and expertise to her students. She knows what Janie Crawford knew: you got to go there to know there. Her pedagogy insists that nothing can replace students' direct research, hands-on experience, collaboration with other students, and field study. To provide opportunities for students to learn from these direct experience, she helped Cuesta receive a National Science Foundation grant, which created undergraduate research opportunities in multiple disciplines. In collaboration with Professor Silvio Favaretto and the National Estuary Program, she has provided research opportunities for students to study eelgrass declines in the Morro Bay estuary. She has created new courses, including Marine Microbiology, the Baja Field Studies course, and the STEM seminar. I'm not sure why they missed the opportunity to call it the STEMinar, but yeah, it's another. If you ask our students, though, what is most impressive and important to understand about her, they will speak passionately and insistently on her study abroad course in Baja, Mexico. This opportunity for Cuesta students to travel to and study in Baja isn't merely a chance to feel the warm sand between their toes. The lasting effect of their time in Baja will forever transform their educations and their lives. For all the opportunities that she has provided, and for all the joy, the educational joy that she has created for Cuesta students as they study our planet, it is our great pleasure in this moment to recognize this year's Diffley Award winner, Lori McConico.
Anybody who knows me knows probably that I don't really like attention. I'm not actually sure how I stand up in front of students every day, to be honest. If I would say anything, I think it's just how much I appreciate the opportunities to grow those programs and all of the students and faculty who have been involved. And most in particular, Ron, Rupert, Nancy Mann, and Jeff Grover, because I think they were doing these things well before I even came to Cuesta, and I just appreciate the chance to keep doing them. So, thanks.
Congratulations, Lori. And congratulations to all of our award winners. I so appreciate hearing of the excellent work that happens on behalf of students at Cuesta College. Before we dive into a look at our progress on our strategic plan, I wanted to share some photos from campus that those of us experienced earlier this week. So this is Monday. Those of you in nursing and pre-hospital programs may recognize that set of stairs that goes to the 2500 building. 3 of the classrooms took on significant amounts of water. Our facilities team was incredibly proactive. Those rooms have already been mitigated. The cove base was removed, holes were drilled, dehumidifiers, all of those things, and it's all put back together and ready for Tuesday. Some of you in communication, languages, and social sciences might recognize this as your faculty office building 6200. And this building was prevented from flooding because of really heroic efforts on behalf of facilities, including a bulldozer to divert water. Yeah, you can see how deep it was, and it was rising very quickly. And I share all of that, hoping that you will join me in thanking and appreciating our custodial and facilities team and our grounds crew. It's hard to show pictures of what didn't happen, but our trees didn't come down. Our grounds crew does a great job of maintaining our trees in a very healthy state, including lots of pruning, and so they held fast, so thank you very much. On to our strategic plan, and we're going to talk about the integrated planning process. We're going to have an update on where we are in 22 and what we were able to accomplish, and look at what's coming next. So hopefully this is familiar to all of you. comes from our integrated planning manual and shows how our integrated planning works and fits together at Cuesta. This spring, we are deep into the review of the mission, vision, and values, and that is being led by Regina Stanback Stroud's consulting company. And many groups have already participated in some focused interviews around that. Many of our faculty who have been gone are going to have opportunity to do so shortly. And if you receive an invitation, likely from Brandon Christian at RSSC Consulting, it will not have an external tag. We're trying to help you see that this is the group that's working with us. I do hope that you will engage in conversation with them. They are really looking to hear from our campus constituencies and from our community around the mission of Cuesta. That is critical, as next year we will launch updating of our 2 long-term master plans, our educational master plan and our facilities master plan. That will be a year-long effort, and that is a pretty aggressive timeline to try to complete such major planning documents for the institution. And then in fall and spring of 2025, we will come back to our strategic plan and have opportunity to put forward a short-term strategic plan that really aligns with the new educational master plan and facilities master plan. All of those things are built upon the foundation of our mission, vision, and values. So our work that happens this spring is really critical to what comes next. So where are we? Our first institutional goal is access. And the lists below show, in comparison to the demographics of our communities served, so primarily San Luis Obispo County, the ones labeled above, including the low income, are foster youth females, those who identify as more than one race, those that identify as some other race. I just want to say these are terms from the California Community College Chancellor's Office. Those who identify as Hispanic or Latino, and those who identify as Black or African American are overrepresented at Cuesta College. You can see that we are reaching into these demographics of our community in a way that goes above what would be expected if we just took a general census of the population. Those groups that are underrepresented at Cuesta, we have some work to do in reaching local veterans, in reaching individuals with disabilities. Males are underrepresented at Cuesta. Those who identify as white and Asian, American Indian, and Alaskan Natives are also underrepresented here. This remained unchanged from our previous look. So as we talk about access, we're also looking at who is coming, right? And targeting particular groups to grow. Our emeritus program remains flat from 2016-2017. You can see by the chart, I realize you can't probably read it. Oh, we actually can. Fantastic. This screen is tremendous, isn't it? But you can see the progress that was made, and then as with all of these slides, pandemic and incredible impact to everything at Cuesta and in our community. So our non-credit enrollment, very similar, right? We were making great strides, growing significantly, and then pandemic, and we are building our way back in that area as well. Other populations are Pell Grant recipients, those students eligible for federal financial aid. Same sort of trajectory. We have some work to do in bringing back Pell students. This is one of the few measures where we are behind where we were in 2016-17. And then this is just incredible, but the total dollars that were given to students through scholarship, our foundation team and our foundation board of directors did incredible work in the midst of the pandemic to really tell the story of Cuesta College students and increased what was available in scholarship. In looking at our local high school students, looking at those who come to Cuesta and have an ADT, an associate degree for transfer goal, we have had significant increase in that. And in CCAP, we have been successful in restoring to where we were pre-pandemic, almost, but certainly where we were in 2016-17. When it comes to completion, the pandemic certainly was challenging in terms of student persistence, but we did not see the massive drop that some institutions have reported. I firmly believe that the very determined actions that the Academic Senate took around grading and withdrawal were significant in this, and I applaud you for that work. So our percentage of students who are earning a degree has increased significantly. And this is a combination of efforts. It's certainly our guided pathways work. It's our work around being intentional with students. And it is also making degrees not be optional, but awarding them based upon student progress and completion, and no longer requiring petition to graduate. Same story around certificates, recognizing that many additional certificates have been implemented at Cuesta as the national data really supports certificate achievement as milestones toward degrees being a significant way to retain students, and we are seeing quite an increase in the number of certificates that we are awarding. We also, again, have increase in the percent of students who attain completion, and that essentially is reaching their educational goals set forth in their student education plan as defined in the vision for success at the Chancellor's office. Transfer. Interesting here, we really did not see a negative impact from the pandemic. This really reflects that those students who persisted and continued and were resilient and were able to complete really were those who intended transfer, and they were able to successfully do so. You'll notice that some of our measures, the data is not as recent as others, and that has to do with how the measures are defined and when the data is available in terms of the particular data element. So we won't necessarily know what the results are here until next year, as we have an opportunity to see who all of our completers and transfer students are, but definitely headed in a positive direction. Similarly, unit accumulation and the effort to decrease the number of units that students are earning at the community college before they transfer, holding steady at 77, which is a great result and a marked decrease from where we started. Again, data that has a significant lag around workforce, but really focusing on what is the earning level of graduates, and then trying to increase the proportion of our students who are attaining a living wage upon graduation. And part of this is we recognize there are challenges in some particular career paths with this, and seeking to address those not only in terms of what we are doing at Cuesta, but in our work in the community, specifically around where's the care, and seeking to solve the real gap in childcare in San Luis Obispo County, but then also really having intention around bringing on new programs at Cuesta that really will provide that sustainable living wage for our completers. So interesting to see progress here. This is an incredibly difficult measure to track. When you think about a completer in accounting, if they go to work for an accounting firm, they're going to show up as working in a job field related to their major. If they go to work for a community college, they're going to show up as an educator. And so when you think about how many of our programs are creating workers that will work in multiple industries, this is a very difficult one to track and very difficult to see changes. So an interesting result and one that has been challenging since it was implemented as part of the Strong Workforce Program. We have goals around our facilities and technology, and we have been making great progress toward them. If you have not seen the totally renovated restrooms on campus, the ones in 6100 and 4400 are now open. They are amazing. They look just like the restrooms in the Martinez building and the restrooms in 7100. And so it's an incredible upgrade. They're very, very nice, and they are fully accessible. So lots of work that is less visible in terms of roofs, maybe not so exciting as in terms of HVAC, but certainly making sure that our facilities are an inviting place to learn and teach and a comfortable place for everyone to be. Same with technology, lots of improvements there. I would say most recently our pilot classrooms for new technology standards have been up and running, and now we are ready to start the process of upgrading the technology implementation in all of our classrooms. So that is coming soon and underway, and really to ensure that those spaces are supporting methodologies that are appropriate in today's classrooms. We're also working to address educational facilities needs that we have in South County. I realized that I didn't bring the slide that I had intended that shows how we are serving an increased number of students from our Napomo, New Tech, and Arroyo Grande high schools. The promise appears to be very significant in students making the choice to come to Cuesta from South County. And so we are seeking a midterm or interim solution in South County, and are in conversations with some property owners, managers, about a facility that would allow Cuesta to have a much bigger presence in South County, not only to be more visible, but to be able to offer instruction all hours of the day and not be limited to evening instruction. So more to come on that. Our goals around fiscal are really to ensure that we are sustainable. So it includes our enrollment, and in particular, regaining our enrollment from pre-pandemic. It's around ensuring that we have revenue streams that don't make us 100% reliable on the changes that come from the state allocation, and really having strategies that we are managing these things in a proactive way. So around enrollment, important for us is the enrollment rate of our local high school graduates. And while we did see an impact of the pandemic, we are hopeful that that is going to come back. Part of our intention today in having t-shirts that say, "Ask me about Cuesta," is we recognize the power of one-on-one interaction with the community as being that invitation, as being that opportunity for someone to ask a question and get an answer and know a little bit more about Cuesta when they are seeking to make a decision. So I've told several people, don't wear it to work, wear it to the gym, wear it to Home Depot. You're welcome to wear it to work, but I do hope you'll consider wearing it when you are out and about, and really engaging in those conversations with our community. So enrollment of our non-credit students certainly impacted by the pandemic, but starting to build back. So the graph on the left really shows where we have been around our FTES, which is our full-time equivalent students, which is the majority of the funding formula for us. And if we look back at 2016-17 and 2017-18, those were years in which Cuesta had engaged in a process of swinging or shifting summer enrollment from one year to the next. So we were in a pattern of lower reported FTE one year, higher the next, and vice versa as we were moving the summer enrollment back and forth. So we made a concerted effort to stop that practice and effectively did so in 2018-19 and moving forward. And you'll see then that the enrollment and the target started to become very closely aligned, and we exceeded our target both in 2018-19 and 19-20, and effectively were able to overcome the reliance on this shift and could see how Cuesta can build consistent enrollment. Again, then we ran into the pandemic, and we are still in the process of building back, of restoring our enrollment to pre-pandemic levels. So we have work to do, and we invite you to be part of that work. So our AB 540 students are our dreamers, and you can see that we have had a really positive return of those students since the pandemic. We have very strong support around those students, and it made a difference, and we were able to retain many more of our AB 540 students and other institutions. And I just want to thank our team and our Monarch Centers for their investment in that. Yeah. Okay, so this is where we are. I would like to say today, but I didn't update it. This is actually yesterday. But fall, our total FTES was 3,231. We did not hit our target. Our target was 3,885. Recognizing that target was very aggressive in an attempt to restore our enrollment prior to the end of Hold Harmless. And I know that's a lot, and Dan's going to talk a little bit more about it, but the target was set high intentionally. Where I'd like to focus is that fall actually ended 57 FTE above last fall, and that was an increase of 1.8%. So again, we are taking steps toward restoration of our enrollment. So yesterday, and this did change a little bit, we were at 2,459 was our FTE. And that's 26 below last spring, year to date. As I look at this, I feel there's a few things that stand out to me. And when we look at our head count, it becomes even more apparent. Our head count in the fall was 10,637, which was an increase of 254 students over last year. So our head count increased by 2.4%, but our FTES only increased by 1.8%. And this spring, our head count is 6,229, which also is an increase. It's 283 over where we were last year. But there's a big gap in students there. And I said, okay, so where are those 4,412 students? And then I looked deeper into the data, and I saw that we have more than 500 new first-time at Cuesta students, including first-time in college and first-time transfer that are coming in. So this number is really 5,000 students from fall are not back. That's nearly half. This is what we need to address. Where are those students? So as we take a look at our strategic plan overall, we really are making improvements toward the goals that are set forth there. And they're not only our strategic plan goals, but they're wholly aligned with the vision for success from the Chancellor's office. So this fall, I took a recommendation to the Strategic Planning Committee that we continue our existing strategic plan, which was 2020 to 2023, to continue it on through 2025. And the committee approved that, and that's going to be forwarded to Planning and Budget for consideration, and it will also be forwarded to College Council for consideration. And this is important for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have not fully met the goals that we set out and that align with the vision for success. And number two, not only are we doing our work around mission, vision, and values and then developing new long-term plans for the college, but we also are going to have a new system chancellor. And we may have change coming to what the system goals are going to be. And by maintaining our existing strategic plan, we can continue the efforts that we see are working over the next couple of years as we build our long-term planning documents and then a strategic plan for the future. All right, and with that, I am going to turn things over to Dr. Elizabeth Correa, who's going to provide an update on student success and support programs.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Great to see everyone back. So today's update is really going to be regarding our organization within Student Success and Support Programs. There's been a lot of changes and some transitions, and we have some new roles and some different individuals in different capacities now. So it was important for everyone to kind of know some of the changes that have transpired. So what I thought it was probably easiest to put together was just the org chart of the Student Success and Support Programs. So you'll see some new names in there, and I guess some different names and different roles. So I'll start off as we have a new administrative assistant to the VP. That's Megan Faye Mitchell. And then, yay, Megan's here. So we'll start off with the leadership. So we have Mia Ruiz. She's the Dean of Student Success and Support Programs. She has now overseen all of those programs starting with our North County campus. Primarily, she's also overseeing our Director of Continuing Education area, which that position is currently vacant at this moment. Our Student Success Centers, Siboney Guardado is under her area as well. The Department Chair for Library and Learning Resources, Karina Love. And then also Department Chair for Student Development and Success, Amy Kaiser. So that is Mia's now new role in Dean of Student Success Support Programs. As you all know, Dr. Maria Escobedo has transitioned also into the Dean of Student Success Support Programs, but she is overseeing some different programs this year now. For one, she is the lead for our South County Center. She's also overseeing the Student Health Services, which is under the direction of Nicole Johnson. Looking over at our DSPS area, we have our new interim dean, Jamie Betancourt. Hey. We have a new position coming on board to oversee student life and leadership. Megan will not start until Tuesday, January 17th, but that would be the Director of Student Engagement. And we have a new position as well. This was a state-mandated position as a basic needs coordinator. So that falls under student life and leadership. So Dr. Anthony Gutierrez is now the basic needs coordinator, along with the department chair for counseling. So that is all under Dr. Escobedo's leadership. Then we also have our Associate Dean of Financial Aid, Records, and Support Programs, and that is Irina McDonald. And her areas has also had some transition and changes, but she is overseeing financial aid, which has our Michelle Evans as the Associate Director over financial aid. Our records office which is one of our coordinators, but it directly reports to Zarina. We have Julian Jackson, the coordinator of EOPS Care, and that's a different of a change also, as you all probably remember the name Cafe Centers. So that has now transitioned over back to its origin name of EOPS Care. Also, we have Hunter Perry. She is a coordinator for CalWorks. And we have our vacant position in our FKC area, which we are looking at restructuring and creating an actual defined foster youth program for Cuesta. And now, obviously, we made some changes with our outreach and enrollment services. That was moved over directly under my leadership. It's not reporting to a dean anymore, but the name has also changed. As we're looking at the guided pathways, right, of how to make programs a little bit more accessible, how can students recognize, as students have challenged to understand, what is enrollment services? What is that? There's different definition for everyone on that one. So we ended up changing the name to admissions and registration, but titles are still the same. So that is under now the leadership of Aaron Borgeson. And he also has some help in there as his coordinator of enrollment services is Lori Yoshiyama. And we do have a coordinator of international students that is vacant as well. Okay. And then there are two classified employees that also report directly to the VP, and that would be Donna Howard. She is still a coordinator of our student support and resolution. And you all know Donna helps everyone out with student conduct matters, connecting students with resources. And Adrian Smith, who is our coordinator for student technology projects. So that is really some of the changes in the org structure for student success and support programs. And with guided pathways, we'll see whether or not some more changes come in with our organization. So with that now, I'm going to go ahead and introduce over to, again, but does not need introduction, would be Dr. Jason Curtis.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am super excited to be up here, and giddy's probably not a word you would associate with me very often, but I actually am this morning because I get to present some organizational chart information from the Office of Instruction, and it is good news. For the first time, let this sink in, for the first time since July of 2019, there are more than 2 permanent deans in the Office of Instruction. You think you're excited. You saw videos for the 3 new ones who just started last week, but I've got some pictures just to help you orient again. Aaron Nagley, over the divisions that they're overseeing are listed down at the bottom of the slide. Aubrey Roderick, Moselle Person, and the veteran who's been here all of 10 months, Oscar Ramos. So yes, one more round of applause for the new deans. Thank you. And then also in the Office of Instruction, there are 7 other managers. And I want to just talk about that a little bit so that you can hear who they are and what areas they're coordinating. So I'll start in the middle, actually. We've got Dr. Espinosa Wade, the Associate Dean of Student Equity and Special Programs, helping out also with guided pathways. We have 3 Associate Directors of Instruction that many of you probably don't have regular contact with. And if you're looking at all of this and thinking, wow, Jason, you have 11 managers in the Office of Instruction, that kind of feels like a lot. Please know that 4 of these, one of the deans and all three of the associate directors were hired without any impact to the general fund. So they're all funded with external money. And so Alicia is working on South County programs. Shelley is working, now that we've walked away from the project at Varian Ranch, is working on developing ranch education programs at the 75 acres across the highway. And Christina is working on CCAP dual enrollment programs. So let's see, I got all three associate directors. Dr. Ryan Cartnell, the executive director of institutional effectiveness and research, is really managing a couple diverse areas under him with their own managers. Matthew Green, who continues to do exceptional work out at CMC and with all of our other community programs, and Lexi Bell, our new director of institutional grants, who has continued our tradition of going out and getting those external funds that help us do new and exciting things. And before I advance from this slide, you can help me make someone feel really awkward by turning and looking at Ryan back there in the corner and just wave happy birthday to Ryan today. Yep, Friday the 13th. Luckily, I'm not that Jason. Okay. Enrollment update. Dr. Stearns already covered this in some detail, but just want to highlight some things because our enrollment and our trends do keep me awake at night a little bit. But in fall 22, Dr. Stearns mentioned that we were up 57 FTES, which works out to 1.8% from the previous fall. It's nice that it's trending upward. It's got a ways to go. We're 16% down from where we were in fall 19. So that's a lot of room to grow back, and that's what we continue to focus upon. We saw appreciable growth, and appreciable is a non-statistical word, and so you just have to take my word for it, in a number of areas, and I've highlighted them here on the screen, and if you look at those, some things that you might see in common with those is, not surprisingly, many of those are things that wouldn't have done well during the pandemic. So for instance, auto tech, music, they needed to be here on the SLO campus physically. And so it's great to have those programs growing back to already essentially to where they were in fall 2019 or close to it. Psych tech, and our non-credit programs in ESL that rely on community sites that we couldn't access during the pandemic, those are coming back naturally as we get access to those spaces again. Supervised tutoring in our student success centers also slowly coming back. So it's great to have those sources of FTES. And then just very quickly before I end my little update from the Office of Instruction, we are encouraged by growth in some new programs, and in particular, one that's easy to cite as a favorite right now, our new aviation maintenance technology program starts on Tuesday. We had a really successful series of community programs orientations to aviation careers courses that ran in the fall, generated a ton of interest. The cohort is full. And that cohort and the courses in spring alone will generate 24 FTES. So that's about 1% growth just by adding that program. It doesn't appear to have cannibalized enrollment in any other programs. These are new students who are coming to Cuesta particularly for aviation maintenance. That is our most beautiful plane. It's one of 3. And one of the things about this program when we were considering adding it was, were we really going to see the support from the industry and the demand from students to justify this program? We have the nicest plane, I have been assured, of any aviation maintenance technician program west of the Mississippi. So there you go. We have gotten a lot of support from our industry partners at ACI Jet and others, and so I just feel really grateful for the program. Okay. You won't, but I will. No. Good question, John. Okay, well, at this time, I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Correa, back up to the stage, and we're going to spend the biggest chunk of this morning, other than the strategic plan update, talking about guided pathways for a little bit. And Dr. Correa, you want to get us started?
That's good. What happened? Technology difficulties.
You can have it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so with guided pathways has been really one of our main themes, and structuring it to define it as transforming that student experience. And that is really kind of the key behind the Guided Pathways framework. And that's what you're going to be hearing us kind of keep on bringing up as we get into our presentation. So as we look at what is the Guided Pathways framework in general. So the framework seeks to intentionally and at scale build the college's structures and programs. Right? It is opportunity for us to really look and take a deep dive into our structures, into our programs, and how efficiently and how better can we remove barriers to try to really increase the magnitude to make that student experience a lot better with key actual outcomes. It requires large-scale transformational change, right? As you have two of the, as the vice presidents to co-chair the Guided Pathways role to really show the significance of the collaboration that is required at a transformation, to transform at this level, that it's going to be not just one small area, it's an institutional-wide initiative moving forward as we're trying to really make these transformational changes. The framework means that the transformation of business as usual or how we normally have done things in the past, it's really would be shifting it to what are we going to be, what are we going to become, right? How are we now after even post-pandemic, post-COVID, students' demographics are different, students' needs are different. So now we have to really start looking at a deep dive into how are we going to look at it from a student's lens, right, and how they're navigating our systems. Educational institutions, the way we're really designed, it's really to produce basically the exact same results, right? As you saw some of the numbers, and you'll see some from a strategic planning criteria, those numbers are pretty much consistent throughout. They're not going to start making some changes until we start making some redesign structural changes to start seeing those different impacts.
So we've actually been at this a while, and those who were around in 2017 maybe remember the beginnings of Guided Pathways at Cuesta and how it slowly came down to us from the state. And I thought it has been so long that it probably is worth reflecting on that history a little bit. So back in 2017, really the fall of 17, California, the legislature established some Guided Pathways funding for the California community colleges. And one of the conditions of colleges like Cuesta accessing those funds was that we had to complete a self-assessment tool. How ready were we to adopt Guided Pathways and sign a certification? And took a little work, a little bit of negotiation, but in spring of 2018, the Academic Senate and Dr. Stearns was new superintendent president, certified that self-assessment and submitted it so that we could access that Guided Pathways money. We worked in fall of 18 to get set up, and in fall of 18, sorry, and then in spring of 19, we started with our Guided Pathways implementation team. We appointed faculty co-coordinators, and that was really when the work started rolling. And in 2019, Rob Johnstone from NCII, one of the big national Guided Pathways consultants, came and visited Cuesta, and we really did a lot of work around our areas of study and implementing a program mapper. And early in 2020, Cuesta applied to and was accepted into cohort number 2 of the California Guided Pathways project. And then the pandemic happened. Wah, wah, wah. And the California Guided Pathways project really requires a lot of face-to-face interaction. It's built on this idea of big, vibrant conferences and people being in rooms together and talking around the table. And I think that the effects of the pandemic can really be seen in how our Guided Pathways implementation slowed down a little bit at that point. So as I hope most of you know, Guided Pathways is typically presented as being around these 4 pillars. The first pillar is we help clarify the path for students. Second pillar, help students get on the path. Third pillar, make sure they stay on the path. And the fourth pillar, make sure that they learn what they need to learn, what we want them to learn throughout their pathway. So in the next couple slides, I'll try to orient you to what Elizabeth and I are going to be doing. We're going to work through each of those 4 pillars. We're going to start with a look at some data. The data represent a proxy, perhaps, for the pillar, for a metric related to the pillar. It's not always going to be a perfect match, but we present it. It's similar to what Dr. Stern shared around the strategic planning update. I think our emphasis is going to be that while we've improved in some of these metrics, where we're at is clearly not good enough, and I hope that you'll agree. So we're going to share those metrics, and then we'll talk a little bit about what Cuesta has done to date in working on our guided pathways transformation. So the first pillar, clarifying the path for students. If we look at students from Cuesta who completed an associate's degree in the 2021 school year, they accumulated between 75 and 83 units at graduation. And Dr. Stern's already reported to you that that was a decrease from before, which is great that it's going down. But an ADT only requires 60 units. So 75 to 83 is easily a full year worth of extra units that students are completing to graduate. And I know there are people in the room who probably feel good about that students are taking time to explore and take other courses and try other things. But think of the burden that that represents for many of our students to take an extra 15 to 20 units. And then, you know, in the fall, Dr. Stanbeck-Stroud was here on this stage and talked to us a lot about how we approach our conversations around racial equity gaps. And I know that it's really awkward sometimes to talk about how some of our student groups are not doing as well as others. But in this particular metric, our Hispanic students on average end up taking an additional 7 units to graduate. So think about what that means. And if your first thought was that there's something about those students that's causing them to take an extra 7 units, then I'm going to stand here and tell you that you need to engage more in our guided pathways work. Because what we need to recognize is that that is probably largely our fault, that we are creating barriers, that we're not providing the necessary support, and that's the work that we're trying to do with this transformation. So what have we done so far? I mentioned that early on in this process, way back in 2019, we started clarifying the path. And the work started because a lot of this came through statewide academic senate, and our faculty really engaged with this process. A lot of what we did was curricular at the beginning. So we looked at all our different degree programs and certificate programs. We looked at what courses were required, the career interests and the outcomes for those programs, and we grouped our programs together into 8 different areas of study. To date, I'm still not sure we're using the areas of study very much. We built those back in 2019. It's 2023, 4 years later, and we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with those areas of study. So those deans, the new deans clusters that were created as part of our reorganization in the Office of Instruction were very much designed to reflect the areas of study. And one other thing that we did, I also mentioned the program mapper. This is just a view of one semester from one program map. If you haven't been to the program mapper on the website, it might be because you can't find it, but we're getting there. And go there and take a look at the information that we're providing for students. This took a lot of work, collaboration between classroom faculty and counselors to build these maps. There are maps for all of our degrees, all our certificates, pretty much, and the maps can be designated. Students can choose a map specific for transfer to CSU or just to earn a local degree.
Okay, so the next pillar is getting on the path. So again, as Dr. Curtis was mentioning, is looking at the units completed for our students within their first 2 semesters. So we've looked at 2019, 2020. Students earned between 13 and 17 units over their first 2 semesters. In order to complete an associate's degree within 2 years, you need to earn 30 units, right? So our students are obviously taking on more units. Students who identify as Hispanic ended up completing 4 fewer units than our white students. But still, as we're noticing there, that students are obviously still taking more units than they're needed to actually to be able to complete their programs. Okay. The other piece of that getting on the path is looking at our orientation. Do our students, are they getting onto that path? Are they getting their area of study early on to be able then to know what courses they need to, know what a career or pathway they're going to go into in order to be able to reduce those amounts of units, right, that they're having to take? Because at the end, what we want them to do is to get on the path, identify their path early on, stay on that path in order to be able to complete in the shortest amount of time, so that they're not obviously taking on more units, staying on longer than they need to. So one of that process is looking at our orientation process. Is that process essential? Is the information that we're providing to the students information enough to get them where they need to jump on that path? Are they able to identify early on their academic and career pathway that is going to be successful for them to get in and out? Are we looking at students that are undecided, right? How are students coming in and being able to say, I'm not sure whether or not what I want to do. I know I want to do something, but I don't know what I want to do. So are we adequately serving those students who are undecided? Is there mechanisms for them to be able to get on that path early on, right? Or are those pathways clear for them to understand, right? So they can determine, hey, what is the shortest amount of time? This program might take me 2 years. Maybe this program might take me 1 year. And what they're able then to accomplish and make more decisions based on their educational journey, their future career path in general as well. And then the other piece is they're staying on the path. So great, now they've actually chosen a path. They know where they want to go, they know what they want to do. But the other piece of guided pathways is to ensure how do they stay on that path and not drop out in that process, right? If we lose them in the process, maybe something became too challenging for them, or usual life takes a toll on some of us and will completely redirect what they're trying to do. So what are we doing to make sure that that student has now going to stay on that path and be able to complete their educational journey here at Cuesta? So 63% of our students who started in fall 2020 continued on to spring 2021. The persistence rate for students who identify as Hispanic was 10% lower than the rate for students who identify as white. So clearly we still have some more work to do as we try to build that sense of belonging for our students, try to provide them the resources in order to be able to sustain and remain in those programs to complete. So part of staying on the path is, part of the guided pathways work that we've done is, at this point, it's created student success teams they're creating within each area of study. And it was very much intentional as we look at the success teams, is how can these teams be able to provide that level touch of intentionality, to be able to provide intervention strategies, upfront intervention strategies, so that the student has a resource that they need ahead of time. The success teams are all based on the areas of study. They're cross-functional teams who work to identify and eliminate barriers. And when we say cross-functional teams, they're members from both student success and support programs, and there's also instructional support in these teams. So as you see, the team is actually made up of the Dean of Instruction, a guided pathways coordinator, a disciplined faculty, a counselor, an enrollment success specialist, a financial aid specialist, and a division assistant. And the whole look around is that wraparound services are to be individualized by that student's need, right? So these teams are then to reach out to students, figuring out what that student is. One student might need financial aid support while another student needs to get more counseling assistant. So it's all tailored around, customized for what that student's specific need is to be able to provide them that service that they need to continue on in their path.
And then the final pillar is ensuring learning along the pathway. And this one's a hard one to find a good metric for. So we'll just go back and talk about completion or transfer, any sort of successful completion of a goal by the student based on their individual path. So of students who started in 2018-19, and we've already referenced some disruptive events that happened during the 3 years of that student's journey, but of those students who started in 18-19, 23% achieved some definition of completion within 3 years. Community colleges get beat up about this particular statistic, right? Less than a quarter of our students who start with us are going to finish anything or transfer. So that's a tough one for us. The completion and transfer rate for students who identify as Hispanic was 17% lower than the rate for students who identify as white. This is the work we need to continue to address moving forward. And we have done some of that. At the beginning of this morning's proceedings, I read off the names of those who had been through the Jedi Academy. Again, 2 years of that focused on developing and implementing culturally responsive pedagogy in their courses. We celebrate that work, and we need to do a lot more of it, because that's a course-by-course activity, the Jedi Academy. And yes, those faculty can take those skills, that knowledge, and apply it to their other courses, but that all takes work. So we do need to create the time for that and encourage that work. Also, many of our online courses have embraced the standards for the California Virtual Campus. I mentioned in the fall that we're a teaching college on CVC, so we can receive students from other California community colleges. And early in the pandemic, when we were doing lots of faculty DE certification, the college committed additional trainers to make sure that there were DEI components in our distance education certification.
So if we look at transforming that student experience, one of the main keys, as I mentioned earlier, is obviously coming up with a very integrated, inclusive approach of how we're going to redesign, how we're currently providing services to our students. Right? So from a student success support programs, some of the work that we're looking into is onboarding specifically, because we know that getting through the application, getting the resources that they need up front, all the way up to registration, can be challenging for our students to navigate. And we could potentially lose them in the process where they will not make it to the classroom on the very first day. Right? So some of those is looking at some of the work and what are those barriers? Right? What are, looking at it from a student's lens. So there's some work intentionally going on within student success support programs where we have groups focusing on the application process, CCC apply, and what is the communication plan that comes out when a student applies? What type of communication do they get? What is their welcoming message? What is that message then? How does it refer students or get students connected? So there's intentionality work on that framework being assessed, reviewed, and how we can come up with some alternative methods to transform that experience. We're also looking at orientation. Is orientation content still needed? Is the process still needed? Do we need different programs have all these different level of orientations? So again, is looking at what is the best use of the orientation? Is the platform still what we need? So that is, again, intentional work that's being assessed. Looking at referrals and resources. How are we connecting students to other programs that they need? How are students being identified of what needs do they need? Do they have housing? Do they have food insecurity? How do we connect them to the success teams? So that's part of the intentionality of the work also there. And then retention. What are we doing to help keep those students on their path? And then the other group, as I mentioned before, also with just names and departments. So we're all looking at assessing the names of departments within student success support programs. Does the student know what the success centers are? And what services does that provide? Right? So the names are also very intentional to be able to remove those barriers so that students can find their pathways a lot easier and get the resources and assistance that they need. But also looking at an approach where we're coming to the student rather than waiting for that student to find us, which could be challenging trying to find us. So that's a lot of the work in transforming, coming from that student's perspective, that student's lens, looking at it from different populations, whether it's a brand new first generation student coming in from high school, right? What is their experience coming in? How about a non-traditional student, a returning student? What is their experience? What's their pathway? So really looking at the different types of population that as a community college here at Cuesta, we serve. So that's really looking at transforming that student experience and redefining and redesigning something now to be able to best meet the needs of our students. And some of that transformational work, so what are those components of it? Program maps, as Dr. Curtis mentioned again, right? All programs, degree certificates, all have, or prep for transfer as well, they all have adaptable programs. They all have their maps already built out so that that student can then get on that pathway. Areas of study, which a lot of work has come through on the areas of study. We have them all defined, and those are all for first-time students to be able to identify their area of study and get on their pathway. Student support, making sure that students receive proactive academic and non-academic support. And then even scheduling and enrollment comes into play with guided pathways as well. Course scheduling, making sure that it's data-driven, is informed by students' availability, informed by students' need, and really looking how that's going to affect the students' comprehensive ed plan. Communication and outreach, that we provide interactive, coordinated, and targeted communication throughout that student's experience at the institution. And then finally is looking at student engagement. How are we connecting student with the community? What clubs do they have? What other additional sports do they have? How are we building community on campus to be able to help them engage and stay engaged and provide them with that more support that they need to keep them interested in the institution? So that's really a lot, looking at all of those areas as part of that transformation. And then of course, with everything that we do, it has to have expected outcomes. Right? First one is really reducing and eliminate those equity gaps. Right? We saw in all of the slides that we've seen all the data. Right? We have some work to do still. Increase term-to-term persistence. We need that student to continue their path from semester to semester so that they can finally get to completion. And we want to increase our completion and transfer rate. And then also at the end is reduce the time to completion and the amount of units they accumulate. Thank you. So that concludes our Guided Pathways presentation.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope you see that this isn't just the work of the GPIT. It's not the work of a single committee. It's all of our work, and it doesn't necessarily require a ton of new work. It requires us to just view the work that we do in a different way. So I hope that you'll join with us as we continue to move forward with our Guided Pathways transformation. And now, if you thought Elizabeth and I looked uncomfortable on stage in t-shirts, I present to you our next presenter, the Vice President of Administration and Finance, Dan Troy.
Well, as Jason indicated, I don't normally wear t-shirts to work. But by putting my sport coat over it, I've been able to update my wardrobe circa 1984, right? Come on, right? I mean, if they're, revising or reviving Miami Vice, this is my audition. All right, so good. Thank you. Thank you. I'll take that as your endorsement of my audition. Thank you. Before we get a little deeper into my presentation, I do want to see that last picture there on your right. That's a picture from, I think it looks like that's outside 6200 on Monday. So I do want to reemphasize what Jill said earlier about the great work that Brian McAllister and his team did to fix all the problems, the leaks all around campus. I mean, those guys were out there in their hip waders trying to fix those issues and make sure our campus was safe. So I really appreciate all their work and effort that went into that. Thank you so much, guys. All right, so let's see if I've got this right. I'm the fiscal guy, right? So I'm going to talk about the budget. That's kind of what I do. So what we're seeing with the governor's January budget proposal that came out earlier this week, and obviously the Planning and Budget Committee is going to get into deep detail on this stuff over the spring, is we're coming off a year in 22-23 where the budget was actually really good. The state revenues were up because of all the great stock market returns that happened from 20 and 21 year. State has a very progressive tax code, so when Elon Musk makes a lot of money, that's really good for the state. When he tweets too much, that's really bad for the state. So somebody really needs to take that guy's phone away in a hurry. So the governor's proposing this year, again, after a relatively boom year in 22-23, that revenues are down this year. He's projecting a statewide deficit of over $22 billion. That sounds like a lot, doesn't it? But it's not. Fortunately, it's not my bank account. And so again, we see this continual cycle in the state of boom and bust cycles. Stock market goes up, state gives out a lot of money, stock market goes down, whoops, sorry, we got to take that back. But there is a little bit of good news going on here, I think, is that while these cycles continue forever and probably will continue forever, it does seem like in this last go-around, the state legislature was a lot more mature in their approach to what was a $50 billion surplus last year. They built in a lot more reserves than they have in the past. And they also chose to spend a lot of that surplus money on one-time expenditures. So it doesn't hurt the ongoing picture as much because all they have to do is back out those one-time expenditures, and it doesn't hurt as much. We're also in community colleges. We're protected somewhat by Proposition 98. Doesn't mean it can't go down, but generally doesn't go down as much as the rest of the state budget does. So the picture for us is actually, at least in terms of the governor's initial proposal, really doesn't look that bad. In fact, you might see one of the highlights there. The governor is estimating a COLA for community colleges and for K-12 of over 8%. And I've been doing this, I think, 24 years now. I've never seen a COLA like that. So we'll see if it holds up as the process goes along. But it's kind of interesting for me to tell you state revenues are down. By the way, we're getting an 8% COLA. That's not, those two things don't usually go together very much. So, the other interesting thing we're seeing in this budget is that, as I mentioned, in the current year budget was very good. We got a lot of one-time resources, a huge amount of deferred maintenance funding, things like that. The governor's actually proposing to claw back some of those resources and divert it to funding for retention and enrollment strategies. And again, I don't think it's a bad idea to fund enrollment and retention strategies, but it's a very unusual proposal to claw back money they gave us last year in order to fund that. That's, I don't think you would probably like it, but I said, remember the salary I said you got last year? We're going to take some of that back this year. You probably wouldn't appreciate that very much. We don't appreciate that at a statewide level. So we'll see how that goes. So some issues to think about as we go forward, and I know Jill and Jason have already talked about enrollment a little bit and the importance of that for our budget stability. We are actually protected right now because of something called the Emergency Conditions Allowance, and what that does is that because of the COVID and those pandemic circumstances that were so difficult for districts across the state, the Chancellor's Office and the state has agreed to fund us as if we have our pre-pandemic FTS. So our pre-pandemic FTS was about 8,100. We're being funded through the 22-23 year as if that's still the case, even though we know that we're down in the, I think in the low 7,000s in terms of our actual FTS. But that protection ends this year. So going forward, it's really, really crucial that we work hard to restore our FTS. So I'm starting with this t-shirt. So everyone please go out there and wear it in your community. There's some interesting vibes, I'll call it, coming from the state on enrollment. There seems to be a sentiment that, boy, you guys just aren't working hard enough to get students out there. This whole nationwide enrollment decline, which is based on demographics, people like me didn't have enough children apparently. We're just not trying hard enough to get this enrollment up. So the governor's budget cautions that they'll be monitoring district level enrollment as if, if we need another billboard or something like that, that's going to reverse the statewide trend. So we'll be keeping our eyes on some of that. Also, the governor's budget proposal, again, it does show a decline in revenues this year, but he's not literally projecting a recession over the next year. So economists and forecasters are fairly mixed in their views on this. I wouldn't say there's a consensus as to whether there will be a recession or not, but some think there will be, some think we're going to have a narrow escape. I think it's fair to say that the governor's slightly on the optimistic side of that. So if there's changes coming up, I think it's probably more likely to be on the downside than the upside. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that. And finally, just remember that this is just the beginning of the process. None of these numbers are final. It's just the governor's view in January. Nothing is final until the legislature has their say, updated economic information, and the governor will eventually sign a budget in June. So a lot can change between now and then. But anyway, this is the kickoff to the year. Fine. How about a more fun subject? We're going to talk about Measure L right now, and the big item that's coming up in Measure L. And I don't want to dismiss the smaller items. Jill mentioned updates to HVACs and roofs and things like that. We're doing all across the campus. I guess apparently we need to fix the roof in here. There's a leak somewhere back there. That's what happens when you get 100-year rain every 3 years. We'll be building a new campus center up where the old admin building is. How many people are going to miss the old admin building? Like that, not me. Apparently, I'm glad they vacated that before they knocked it down. So I had some warning. But anyway, this is what the campus center will look like from the front view. That's going to go right over where the admin loop is. So there's a front view of it. It'll be a 2-story building. I know we don't have a lot of those, so you may have to occasionally use the stairs or an elevator. Here's a rear view of it. If you see it there in the middle, there's going to be a coffee shop there. That will be my office. Okay. My go-to order is a double macchiato with oat milk foam, just so you know. So this is the view from the kind of the Cougar Park area. And there's a kind of a quick look at the interior. You see we're trying to utilize a lot of natural light, make it a very welcoming environment for students. What's that? That is beautiful. Hopefully the real thing will look as good as this artist rendition. And, ghostly apparitions in their renditions. I'm hoping that we have real solid 3-dimensional people in our building. So get out there, wear your t-shirts, bring those students in. Real students, okay? Not see-through students. Anyway, so so we are trying to utilize a lot of natural light, make it feel open and welcoming, and that's very reflective of what will be on the first floor of this building. It's really that first stop for that student coming in saying, hey, I want to take some classes. Where do I start? We'll have enrollment, our ESSs will be here, financial aid will be here, counselors will be on this floor. So it's really a great one-stop shop for that new student who comes to campus. Everything they need to do to enroll and get started will be there for them. So, and right on the front door of our campus, next to an actual parking lot, unlike right now where everything's in the middle of the campus, right? So I think that's a much better starting place for our prospective new students. Let's end on the best note of all, parking permits. Yes, I know you read your emails, right? I heard a joke I hear from faculty often is that if you want to hide information, put it in your syllabus. right? And in Cuesta College, what we do is we want to hide information. We do an all-campus email, right? Please read them, because your old parking permit is no longer valid. That paper thing you hang on your rearview mirror, you don't need that anymore. Your new parking permit is your license plate number. So please go to your portal. We have a little tile for parking permits there. Click on it. Sign up for your new parking permit. You pay that way through a credit card. It's a very easy process. I think it took me about 2 minutes to do, so you have no excuse. So go ahead and get that done. We won't be issuing citations until February, so you've got a little bit of time, but you might want to go ahead and read that email, get that done. The era of the paper is over. So that's all I got. And I don't know about you, but when I get a message from HR, it's usually bad news. Maybe that's just me. But with that, I'm going to introduce our Assistant Superintendent Vice President of HR, Melissa Richardson, and we'll see if she has any good news for us. So, Melissa, it's all you.
So my update's going to be pretty quick, which I know you all will appreciate. So the first thing I have is some good news. We are officially recognizing Juneteenth as a holiday. Yes, so Governor Newsom signed Assembly Bill 1655 in September of 22. If you were unable to attend the January board meeting, our Board of Trustees formally recognized and approved a revised instructional calendar, and CCCUE and the district signed an MOU in January as well. Emergency COVID sick leave has expired as of December. Cal OSHA requirements, which include those letters that you may get if you have a close contact or if you tested positive, those are still in effect through December of 24. So you still need to report positive and negative COVID tests to Human Resources for the next couple of years. If anything changes about that, we will make sure everyone knows, but that is a requirement that is ongoing. If you do test positive for COVID, you do have a 5-day window that you have to remain off campus. That is covered under Family Medical Leave Act. So you do have some protections. You still have to use your sick leave, but you will not be docked any pay as long as you have sick leave in your account. And my last update, in October of 22, based on the Supreme Court ruling regarding Roe versus Wade, the Office of Civil Rights sent out a reminder about protections for students and employees under Title IX. So pregnancy has always been covered under Title IX. It is considered a disability and is free from protection of discrimination. But pregnancy includes childbirth, false pregnancy, termination of pregnancy, or recovery therefrom. So if you're an employee or a student, you need to submit a doctor's note. And you are entitled to accommodations, and you're also entitled to be treated with leave of absence. They are considered temporary disabilities, and if a student returns, they have to be reinstated to their pre-leave status, right? So some of you have had students who have accommodations under this. It's just a good reminder about that. Please refer students to either Human Resources or DSPS. Employees, please remember to come to Human Resources. So, any questions for me? Okay, I told you I promised I would keep it quick. And I started out with good news, so I just want to make sure that everybody remembers that. It's not all bad news. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Stearns. Thank you all very much.
So I have a few thank yous as we wrap up this morning. I want to start by thanking Clark and the team here in the CPAC. This is such a great venue, and I appreciate all of your assistance. Thank you to Todd and Cindy for making sure that we have lunch available today, and I hope that all of you are looking forward to that as well. On the SLO campus, we'll be down in 5400. I hope you brought an umbrella because rumor has it the rain has started once again. And North County, I want to thank Mia for hosting the watch site there. and for Amy for helping to assist with lunch planning as well. It really does take a team to make opening day happen, and I appreciate the role that everyone has played. Thank you to the executive team for presenting today. That was lots of information in a short amount of time, and we appreciate it very much. I'm going to go back to the t-shirts and my concern about the 5,000 students that were here in the fall and have not signed up for spring. I do hope you will wear your shirt, and I'm going to give you the challenge that I have given both to Cabinet and to the management team. If you are wearing Cuesta gear in the community, someone's going to come up to you and ask about the aviation program. I guarantee it. It happens all the time. So my challenge to you is to have 3 other programs right here in your back pocket that you are ready to talk about. Faculty, easy, right? Because there's one that you're intimately aware of. So I challenge you maybe to come up with a couple of others, maybe outside of your cluster, that you could also share a little bit of information about, and how to connect someone at Cuesta. The power of that conversation is life-changing. And one of the things that I love so much about commencement, and I can't wait till it gets here, right? That's the exciting part about spring, is when I talk to students and ask them about their experience at Cuesta, inevitably they will talk about the people. They talk about the impact that you have had on them and their journey. And so I'm asking you to also step into that space to help the non-student who's considering what they're going to do next, to have Cuesta rise to the top of that list. So in wrap up today, I thought this quote from Benjamin Franklin was so incredibly appropriate. I like growth and progress. No one wants to think about change. Change is uncomfortable, but growth and progress is so positive. And here at Cuesta, it really is bringing about improvement. We're impacting achievement and success. And those things all have meaning because of the growth and progress that is underway. Thank you for the part that you play in that for our students. So with that, we are even a little bit early in ending, and just a quick reminder, the faculty hour is next right here, and area meetings are scheduled around the campus. Hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for being here today.